Well, I give a specific love. Tool storage is very important. So in this video, I'm going to show you 20 simple ways to store your tools on the wall. Let's begin. Circular saw. Great tool to have in your shop, especially if you can have easy access to it. So I created this awesome little wall mount. It's very simple. Basically just a flat surface with a nice edging around so that the saw kind of sits in place and you don't have to worry about it falling out. On the back here, I have it cut at a 45-degree angle so the saw sits nicely against the wall. With your little French cleat attached, you can then attach it to the wall. And there you go. Easy way to store your circular saw with easy access. Now here's a simple way to create a wrench holder. All I have here is some 2x4s that I have cut down strategically so that it fits the size of the wrenches. Then I cut a groove in several places, all about equal amounts, all at about a 10 to 15 degree angle so that the wrenches do not want to slide out the front, they slide towards the back. You can do this really simple just using a sliding miter saw or a table saw, whatever you have at hand. You can even use a circular saw if you're very careful. Overall, this is a great way to store your wrenches and it's simple, easy access on a wall. Now here's a common way to store some of your chisels. This is a very simple design. You just need to create a 90-degree angle with any shape of wood that you'd like. Create some grooves going through the wood. And I also did a little recessed area here so that each of the chisels will sit nicely in there and less likely for them to fall out. You also may want to be careful on the spacing so that some of the larger chisels can have a little more room versus the smaller ones. Either way, this is a very simple design and you can put it together any way you want. Now here's an idea to store your orbital sander and your sandpaper. Now to create this, I used some 1x6 lumber and some extra plywood that had scrap left over. I did a little rabbet cut on all four corners, except for the top I made it a little bit taller so it creates a little bit of a lip. The great thing about using a 1x6 is it's the perfect size for an orbital sander. I also did a backing here just so that it'd be nice and firm, give it some added strength. And the top I added just an extra little lip on the front. Now to make a little divider, I just made a simple groove on each side at the same height, slid in an additional piece, and this makes some great storage for some extra sanding pads. Paper towels are a great tool to have around a shop, so here's a very simple way to create a paper towel holder. Just take two pieces of wood, create an L shape. You want to drill a hole in the center and add a nice dowel rod. Add your bracket to the back, and now you're ready. Rubber gloves are great to have around the shop. Just sometimes when you put them on a shelf, it's hard to access them, especially if you're in immediate need. So I created this awesome little holder that goes right on your wall. It's very simple. You create basically a three-sided wooden box. Put a couple slots in here just to keep stuff from sliding out. Slide your box inside, and there you go. Easy access whenever you need them. A grinder is a great tool whether you're trying to cut off nails or just get through a chain, but it can be one of those oddly shaped tools that just doesn't really fit anywhere. So I created a nice little holder so it fits right here on the wall. The great thing about it is it not only holds the grinder, it holds some of its accessories and some additional cutting wheels. So let me show you how I built this. Now to create this holder, I started off with a thick piece of plywood and two additional pieces of 3/4 inch plywood to space it out. On the front here, I'm using an 1/8 inch thick of plywood, and the reason why is the neck on this grinder is real narrow and you want it to be able to sit right here on this main piece. I also made a small circular groove here so that everything will not slide around, but will sit right here in the center. As for the accessories, I have one main hole here in the top so that it'll fit the handle, and you need the wrench to add and to take off the wheels that I have right there. Down on the bottom, I'm just using some simple pegs that I have drilled and glued in place so that the wheels can stay nice and firm. Very simple, very easy grinder holder. Now here's a classic way to incorporate some decor into your storage. This is an old-timey looking toolbox that I made out of just some spare pallet wood I had. And it's real simple. I just use some brad nails, use some glue to put it together. It's not super heavy duty, but it will hold some of your tools. I just used a dowel rod to create the handle and glued it in place after drilling some holes. Real simple, real easy, and you can make one of these real quick. Now if you've ever used corner squares for any of your builds, you know how handy they can be. And if you never have, you should get them because they do work well. Now I've created a simple little storage holder for them. Let me show you how I built this. Now for the corner square holder, it's very simple. I had a 2x material that I actually cut down at a 45-degree angle. It's very simple, very easy to do. It's all put on a 1x3. On the front here, I had a large craft stick that I cut down, sanded it around so it would be nice and smooth, you don't hurt your hands. And that is just a simple way that you can store these that have easy access right on your wall. If you have a bunch of bar clamps, here's a great way to store them. You just need a 2x6, add a French cleat, cut it to the size you need, and then clamp them to the front. Great thing about this is it keeps them off the floor, out of the way, and less likely to warp or rust because it's not where the moisture is. You can hang them on your wall, great way to store. Now when it comes to your woodworking clamps, there's a bunch of different styles. I wanted to create a way that is real simple to put them on and take them off real quickly. So I'm using a combination of a 2x6 backer with some 2x4s that come out with just a little bit of a piece that comes up to keep them from sliding off. I can do 5 to 6 clamps per row, which means in this case I can do 25 to 30 clamps, which is a lot more than you see in some of the wider clamp sets. Now for my larger 12 and 24 inch clamps, I'm using a combination of a 2x6 that comes out just for added strength because these are heavier and I just wanted something a little more heavy duty. Nails and screws are great to have handy, so I built this wall unit so it's easy access and I just have them right at hand. I also have some storage right here in the middle, so if you want bits or whatever you might need, you can store it there. I built this project in a previous video and it is real simple to build, but it's a lot easier for me to show you than it is to actually tell you. So I'll put the link to that in the description below, so make sure you check that out. If you use Spade Bits, here's a good way to store them on the wall. I have a couple 1x4s that I've glued at a 90-degree angle, added a French cleat to the back, and just strategically drilled some holes. I actually have a couple different rows here so I can add more in the future, but that's just a simple way to store them on a wall. It's always great to have easy access to your hammer, so I like to store them right on my wall. I made this real simple French cleat setup that uses one of these little U-hooks that screws into an additional piece of wood. You want this to have a nice little backing. The great thing about this is it's small and you can move it around. The downside is, because it is small, there's a chance you might knock it off. So if you want to make these a little bit bigger, you can, and give a little more added weight, less likely for them to get knocked off. I personally prefer the small ones, so I can easily move them around whenever I need to. And these will even work great for one of your rolling stands. You can also screw in some of these basic hooks to work for maybe hanging up your respirator, or some ear protection, or even some of your masks. Now here's a way to incorporate some wood and some PVC pipe to create a unique little holder. I'm using this to hold my pens and pencils and a lot of my zip ties, and it's just some simple 2-inch pipe and some 1-inch pipe that I have glued together. On the bottom I used a piece of wood that I've attached so that nothing falls out, and to hold the PVC to the wood I just used some screws directly into it. Either way, this is a great little holder and it looks really cool being nice and clear. Now here's another great twist on using some PVC as a holder. I have screwdrivers, pliers, cutters, and a few other things included in this. I have doubled up the pipe, but I've also angled the bottoms down here so it just makes it easier access in case some of the units are a little bit small. You can push it up relatively easily. On the back here, I'm just using some wood just to give it nice and strength, and to hold it in place I just have some screws going through some of the pipe. Real simple and real easy little holder for all your stuff. Now I love my French cleat system, but I also love the idea of using pegboard. So I created this little square unit that fits on top of the French cleat system. That way I can still access and have the ability to use all these little hooks and clips that come with the pegboard. So that's a great way to incorporate both of them at the same time, but still have the ability to move it around anytime you need. Now if you want to get super simplistic on making some of these French cleat holders, you can make one with just some basic nails. Just get a piece of wood, add the backing, and nail it in place. Now in this case here, I'm using this to hold some files. But I have these little tiny files that won't fit on the big nails. So to incorporate this, on the back of it, I took a nail and I drove it in from the back side, filed off the end of it, and now I can use that to have it for the little files. Now to incorporate the big ones, along with these, you can make a bunch of varieties to fit whatever tools you need. Now I've also created this very simplistic little cup holder or can holder, whatever you want to do. It fits up on the wall, you can easily place your drink, and that way you can easily have access to it. I also put some additional hooks on the side, which makes it good if you need to hang something, or you can incorporate this into a much larger setup and just have a little shelf. Now here's my interpretation of a measuring tape holder. It's still a work in progress, so I'm going to be upgrading over time, but it's very simplistic. I just cut some squares out with a little bit of an angle on the bottom so that the clip here, when it goes on, has a place to stay nice and sturdy. On the back of it, it's very simple, just a piece of plywood with a French cleat at the top, nothing fancy, and all the clips on the back, as you can see, are holding tight. That's just a very simplistic way to hold some of your measuring tapes up on the wall. Now for those of you interested in this build, it is a charging station and a drill holder for all of my drills and components. Now this is a little bit more of a complicated build, so I created its own video, and I'll put a link to that in the description below. French cleats are awesome. You can use them in so many different ways to create so many different types of holders, and I hope you have a chance to get down in your shop and do something cool too. Have fun building. I created this awesome little holder so you can put your gloves and it won't get in there. Let's try that again. Either case, it's a great little way to make a simple holder that doesn't fall off the wall. Now here's my I can't say the word. Interpretation. Okay.